If you have a manager who usually is not very clear in their instructions or what they expect, this video is for you. I'm Ricky, and I may look young because I am. I've been in the corporate world for 20 years working for some of the largest companies that you've probably heard of, like Chase Bank, Deloitte, Visa, and Oracle. And I made my way up to become an executive at a publicly traded global company by the time I was 34. Because I studied psychology, everything that I share is rooted in psychology, but also proven in the real world, because these are the things that I had to navigate through myself. Let's talk about managers who give very vague instructions or who are not very clear in communicating what their expectations are. These are 4 questions for you to ask them to make sure that both of you are aligned on the expectations, so that it doesn't become a situation where you deliver something and they say, that's not very good. That's not what I was looking for. That's what we're trying to avoid. Question number 1, what are you trying to solve for? This question is important because it challenges the manager to really articulate what they're looking for. And not only what they're looking for, but what question are they trying to answer? Maybe they received a question from someone else and they're asking you to do this or to give you some information in order to answer that question. The more context you have on what your manager is trying to solve by asking you to do this, the better it is for you, because then you can help them get to that answer. Sometimes maybe the question that they ask you or the information that they ask you for won't really solve for what they truly need. So by asking, what are you trying to solve for? It will give you more information to equip you with the right answer. Because if you are the subject matter expert in an area, if your manager says, give me A, but they say, oh, actually, I'm trying to solve for B, then you are the one who actually knows what's the best information to provide them. Question number 2. What does good look like in this situation? I know you've seen this scenario before where a manager asks for something on Slack or on Teams, and then you end up sending it to them and they say, this is very far off from what I was expecting. And then it creates frustration and churn, and you have to spend extra hours redoing all the work, when in fact you should have started with this question. What does good look like in this situation? When you ask that question, it makes the manager pause and actually think about what good looks like. Because if they're asking for information or if they're asking for an analysis, then it pushes them to be more clear about what format they may be looking for. Are they looking for PowerPoint slides? Are they looking for an Excel spreadsheet? Are they looking for an email with bullet points? These are all very different depending on the manager and the manager's style. So by asking them, what does good look like in this situation? It sets you up for success because it puts the ownership on them to articulate what good actually looks like, so that when you deliver the end product to them and it looks like what they said, there's no way for them to go back and say, oh no, that's not what I meant, because it should have been very clear about what good looks like. Question number 3, who is the intended audience for this? By making sure that you understand who the audience is, that will allow you to produce higher quality work, because you have to understand who the audience is in order to make sure you're addressing their needs, addressing their concerns, answering their questions, and in many cases, anticipating any follow-up questions. This is one that a lot of people miss, where they just receive a task or they start diving in and doing the work and putting together an analysis without any thought of who the audience actually is. Because when you're able to put yourself in the shoes of the audience, you will be able to think about what they care about, what matters to them, what doesn't matter to them. And that will lead you to a much better outcome, as opposed to just going in without any thought of who you're doing this work for, and then end up coming back with a bunch of follow-up questions. Most career advice ignores the psychology behind it. But career growth isn't just about skills, it's about perception. And perception follows psychology. If you want more practical career guidance grounded in how people actually think and behave at work, then subscribe. I'll see you next time.